Hey everybody, Josh Sheridan here with the Barely Legal Podcast. It has been a minute this year since I've done one. I was going pretty hot and heavy since I started in 2019 through 2020. Knocking out, sometimes 2, 3, 4 episodes a week. But I was noticing that I wasn't getting to the gym or doing anything to watch my health. And over Christmas, I hit 3 bills, which scared the shit out of me. So I figured I'm going to pull back just a little bit and be a little bit more selective on how many people I have in and how often I do this. But today's guest is one of my all-time favorite, and I have to admit at the outset that I've harbored a good amount of guilt because the first time he was in, my mics and system didn't want to work with me, and it sounded like he was calling me from, the Norwegian Black Forest or whatever, which is fitting, giving today's guest Blade of Surtr, Andrew DiMestico, Achilles, whatever you know him by. That's fitting for him, but. It wasn't the best sounding episode, but luckily we got him back in today. Thank you so much for coming in.
I'm happy to be back, man.
You have been such a diamond in the rough for me because I just really am pinch myself listening to your music at how good it is and how prolific you are and how DIY you are. I mean, you're just your own unit, I almost wish we could clone you because I just think I wish I could see you play live more, and obviously with COVID, you can't see anybody play live more, but I daydream listening to your music, what a Blade of Surtr concert might look like. And it just, it seems rad to me. I know you've kind of got your feelings on playing in a band and kind of delegating and kind of, sharing in the writing process. I think you have a pretty clear vision of what you want it to sound like. And it's hard to, not be the one who does it all.
Right.
I run into that here as a lawyer, I'm supposed to be delegating things and it's usually like, it's just easier if I do it, So I'm sure, what drums you want to hear, what bass you want to hear,
right.
If you want to have vocals or not, what you want them to sound like and all that other stuff. And it ends up being a lot easier to do it yourself. But do you, and I understand that in the context of COVID, we're kind of, not doing live stuff, although I know you did over Christmas with one of your projects, but is that ever something you see coming with Blade of Surtr? I mean,
I never really planned it to be a live thing. I mean, it's kind of like, I kind of really got into black metal only a couple years ago. And Dark Throne was one of the first bands that I started with, and realizing that they don't play live shows.
Well, none of those bands. I mean, it's kind of a different thing over there, and by no means is my knowledge of it as sharp as yours. But I read the book, I watched the documentary, I watched the movie on it, I listened to some Mayhem, some Venom, and some of these, Celtic Frost, some of these other types of bands that, got Warhammer, these people that started out there and kind of have evolved into different things. But it's almost a political music, and it's almost less about, it's not at all about capitalism because I don't think any of them made penny one off of any of it.
Very underground.
There's not a lot of touring. There's not a lot of live, and not only that, but it's almost kind of an anarchy against even production value. Now, not your stuff specifically. Your stuff is got I don't want to say cleaner. That's the wrong word, but it's a better sounding product than what a lot of them are putting out. But it was almost. Would you agree? Almost kind of a fuck you to music just in general?
Yeah, they were really trying to go for the shittiest sound they could just to say, we don't want a good sounding record. It's like they're
eschewing all of the what's the word I'm looking for? Like why are you, why does someone do music? Do they do it because they have an artistic voice they want to get out? Do they do it because they want fame? Do they do it because they want money?
Yeah.
Do they do it because they, want to be in the pecking order of the great bands? And they were kind of like, fuck you, I don't want any money. I don't want it to sound good. You're not ever going to come see me play. I mean, it's very kind of
It is. I mean, that's not my mindset on it. I'm very into the idea of having a well-sounding album.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because I like good production. I grew up listening to good production in bands and stuff. But black metal is so, especially the early 90s when it was first coming out in Norway and stuff, those guys were like, we're going to sing the vocals through a fucking headset. And we want it to sound like they wanted the smallest shitty amp and
shitty drum, shitty like amp. The guitar sounds hollow and tinny sounding.
It is. It's good though. There's a few bands that I can get into that with, like Darkthrone. You know, Mayhem's okay to me. But I mean, like Burzum and stuff, I couldn't really get into.
Well, getting into politics, I mean, that guy's a fucking nut.
Yeah,
and a murderer too.
Yeah, he's completely out there. He's
burn up a bunch of churches.
He's
killed
way offsides.
Yeah,
man. But that's the thing. He was also, you know, as rebellious as that was, he was also doing that to get attention. So it's kind of like.
Yeah, but I mean, he went far. I mean,
yeah, he went way a little too deep.
You know, it's kind of like with the gangster rap. It's like, are you playing at it or are you in it?
Yeah,
and you know, you've seen some artists that were in it, they're fucking dead now, and then other people who play at it and they turn state's evidence when they get, you know.
I just like art, man. I mean, I don't feel the need to be running around burning churches and stuff, especially like the real cool ones. They were burning up 1,000-year-old churches that were like
relics and
it's like, if you were gonna do that, why not hit like the, you know, like Joel Osteen's or something? Like you're hitting the wrong ones, but yeah. I mean, those guys were they were bonkers back then, man.
It's interesting about the sound because sometimes I can get behind that type of philosophy and other times I don't. And I'll give you two examples. One is, and I think I might have I'm not even sure, but I think I brought this up with you before, but there's a movie called 24-Hour Party People, and it's about the Manchester music scene. The first half of that movie is very specifically about Joy Division. And I don't know if you're a Joy Division fan.
I know of them. I've heard some of their stuff.
Martin Hannett, who was one of their producers, like he really went out of his way to make things sound very kind of unrefined. And it's a fictional account of a true story, but there's a pretty funny scene where he keeps moving the drummer further away from the band. Like first he puts him in another room and then he puts him down the hallway. And by the time they finally, I don't know if it was Unknown Pleasures or which album it was, he has the fucking drummer on the roof. And so the drums on that album literally sound like he's hitting a cardboard box. Yeah. Like it doesn't resonate. Yeah. There's no clap to it. It sounds like you're hitting a wet towel or something.
Man, I'm wondering if maybe he had something against the guy personally.
It might have been. You know, you hear about that kind of shit like Rick Rubin telling Dave Grohl he needs a metronome or, you know, kind of that passive aggressive relationship between producers.
I mean, I wouldn't doubt it.
So there's that, but I dig the Joy Division sound there. Like I really love that about him. Then I'm also a big Radiohead fan, and I mean, you know, call the press. I mean, you know, being a Radiohead fan is kind of a, you know, it's not necessarily something to be proud of. But at some point, they just decided we're not ever going to be a rock band again. We're just not. You know, effectively, almost we're putting away guitars. We're putting it in where it's going to be blips and bloops and fucking digital house music,
clicks and whistles.
Yeah, and some of that I love. Like their first two, you know, Amnesia and Kid A, you know, were their first two albums where they kind of stepped out into that world, and I really loved it. And every one of their albums after that have something I can get behind, but part of me just wishes, like, can you please do a Benz again? Not that again, but pick up your fucking guitars and play a rock song. Like,
I mean, especially when you're starting, it kind of sucks when you get into a band so much and they veer so far from their sound throughout. You know, throughout the. I mean, it's gonna happen. It's inevitable. But like, there's, you know, I mean, like this band Cryptopsy, I was so into them, man, when I was in high school, and they're just like completely. They went more of a hardcore route, and it's kind of like that slam deathcore stuff, and I just can't do it.
Yeah.
And they used to be like my favorite, man, because they were like the most brutal death metal that I heard at the time. And then they went along and, you know, picked up this new guy, and he's like kind of more emo screaming, and I'm like, it's not fitting the sound.
It's not doing it for you.
I got mad. I started breaking shit in my room. No, I'm just kidding. But I was like, at that point, like, why are you guys doing this to me, man?
Right.
Like, you know, you guys were my heroes.
Well, you know, and if you've been a fan of music over a period of time, most of the bands that you love they have that. I mean, obviously you've got Metallica with their Black Album through Saint Anger period.
I even went back and re-listened to Load and Reload, and I actually really like those albums. Like, I think they're great.
If they were a
albums.
different band,
right? It's good. It's good, like Southern rock.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. I have nothing against it, but I want more Justice for All.
You want more.
I love that technical
Lars Kirk music than James's kind of.
I really, but back then James's writing was just like on Justice. His riffs that
writing
he came
and his
up with
well, for sure. But I think he's always been the one who has tried to pull a Southern rock.
Yeah, that's his thing.
In there.
That's definitely his thing. Hunter type. He's definitely that guy, man.
Yeah, Lars is the new wave of British heavy metal, and then you got Kirk, who's Exodus and the Bay Area thrash scene, and then depending on which basis we're going to talk about, it kind of pulls in different aspects. Did you ever get to see that Murder in the Front Row documentary?
No, I haven't got to watch it yet, man.
One of these days, man, I'm gonna sit you down. There's like 5 documentaries I want you to watch.
I need to, man. I get
You're
so
fucking
tied
putting
up.
out an album every month, every other week.
I'm so tied up in it, man. It's just that's all I do.
I've loved every one of your things, but I really dug your track that was inspired by Mandy. And I was super late.
The Black Skulls,
I was super late to the game on that movie. I knew about that movie way before it came out, and it was always like we're talking about on my to-do list.
Mm-hmm.
But I just never got around to. When you have kids, it's fucking impossible to watch anything that's not
anything in that
Puffin' Rock or fucking Beanie Babies or whatever the case may be. I've been trying to watch somehow, and I've been posting about this. I got through life without ever watching Sopranos, so now I'm in season 5, and I'm like all about Sopranos.
It's so good, man.
But literally every time I try and watch it on the TV, they're at the bada bing, and my daughter walks in, and there's all these strippers up there. I'm like, I can't do it. So
that must be difficult, man.
But I forget how it happened, but I got the perfect storm of the kids went to bed early, and my wife was out or whatever it was, and so I watched Mandy, and I was afraid it would let me down, like. I was like, this is going to be kind of just a hot fucking mess. I love that movie.
It's so great, man.
And that director,
it's so great, man. Yeah, Panos Cosmatos.
Yeah.
He did, did you see Beyond the Black Rainbow?
I know of it. I haven't seen it, but I want to go back and.
It's great. It's not as like sporadic and wild as Mandy is. It's very slow.
Yeah.
But the soundtrack is killer. It's all
very moody, badass. Yeah. That's hardcore.
And it's very, very weird, very strange. And the acting's kind of weird, but it's good. But yeah, Mandy was that was like a breath of fresh air for me when that came out, man. It's like a
2-hour music video. It's almost like The Wall, or
it's a full trip, the whole movie. And I mean, once he dips into that jar, and tastes that concentrated LSD and just goes insane.
Shit, but I could see like was it? Now I'm blanking. I feel like I should know this. The soundtrack to it. Was it one artist who did everything, or
I think. Damn, who was the I can't remember, man. I know that he uses, I think he uses one guy for like a lot of the synth stuff. Someone pretty well known did the title sequence.
Because I could so see like a Tangerine Dream.
I think that's who did the opening for it. Yeah. No, maybe it wasn't. Damn, I can't remember, man.
Because they're the ones who
good though.
Well, they're the ones who did those very synth heavy, kind of dark soundtracks for the one I saw recently, and I remember I was either talking to you about it. I know I messaged you about it and messaged Mike about it, but there was The Keep, Michael Mann's movie The Keep.
Yeah.
Where it's like they're in Germany, and
that's a great movie.
Yeah,
too,
I mean it's a fucking mess, but the music is
and the creature's cool, man.
It is badass. The red eyes and
yeah.
So anyway, so you've got, is it 4 albums on the burner or
5?
Jesus.
Yeah.
So is it how many are Achilles and how many are Blade of Sur?
There's 3 Blade of Surtrs and there's 2 Achilles. Okay,
and I'm sorry, I know I butcher Surtr. I always say Sir, but
Surtr. It's a weird.
Mine sounds like an English melodrama. Yours actually sounds badass.
that goddamn Old Norse shit, man. It's hard to pronounce. But
I love it though. So putting out 3 different albums. Like, tell me about like what separates them. Like what, I'll stick with Blade of Surtr and then go to Achilles. But like,
okay,
you could have just made a double album or a triple album. You
Right.
didn't do that. Is that because there's kind of a different?
There is a different sound.
North Star for each?
There's a different, they're each their own kind of entity, man. Like, the first Blade of Surtr I got coming out,
so let's talk about
probably be this month.
What's the track that we're going to play?
The track is Throne of Ice.
Throne of Ice?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, very cool.
And this album is called Violent Nature.
Okay.
So I wanted to, a lot of the songs deal with like evil royalty. I'm talking about some, like Kings of Hell and.
Are you reading stuff or watching stuff that's putting this?
Always. I mean, it's really what comes out with these albums is what I'm into at the moment.
So what are you into at the moment for
right now? I'm into so much stuff, which is why I got 5 albums.
Sure, yeah. Well, that's awesome.
Because I'll start working on one and I'm like, okay, this is the album I'm going to focus on. But then I get inspired by something else. So I jump to something else. So that's what I've been going through probably the past 6 months. And I've just, I got all the music done. The music's done for all the albums. It's recorded. It's everything's in. It's just all vocals now, and
which I love, and I love the instrumental stuff. But I'm really psyched to have
all of these will have vocals.
You singing again because
these will all have vocals. So, right now my voice is kind of fucked.
Shredded.
I just got back
putting it all down.
it.
Yeah.
So it's and the black metal stuff is harsh on the vocals.
Did you like? How do you get yourself prepared for that? Like, is there someone you're trying to sound like? Is there an idea in your head of what you want to sound like? Are you just sounding like whatever you sound like? Like, how do you get your voice there?
It's a natural thing. My favorite black metal vocalist is probably Eric Danielson from Watain.
Okay.
I like that he has like this grinding and you can almost kind of hear his actual voice in it.
Yeah.
And I was kind of going for that, and it was natural for me. It just came out.
You kind of got there quickly.
Yeah. It was, I was messing around with different vocals, like even more raspy and higher pitched stuff, but it doesn't sound as good. So I did what comes more naturally, and what comes naturally for me is actually exactly what I wanted out of it. So I'm really happy with the Blade vocals because, they're spot on to what I want to hear.
Does it sound to you, listening to it back, like it sounds to you when you're doing it?
It's
like, how sometimes you hear yourself talk on video or recording, and you're like, that's what I fucking sound like?
It's kind of weird, man. I've gone to this process now to where once I record the vocals, I'll have to step away for a day and then come back to mix them. Because I won't, my ears are, after I'm doing that, everything's going straight.
You gotta let them kind of go back to
I gotta
baseline.
let them, I gotta let them come down and just chill out for a minute. But when I come back, I hear my voice. I'm impressed by myself with the black metal stuff.
And that I love that. I love that you say that too, because it's you say it with no ego, and you say it with no self congratulation. I know that's not necessarily the phrase I'm looking for, but I truly get from you that you enjoy what you're putting out there, I think is rad.
I mean, that's the point is, for me, the reason I do all this is because I'm writing music that I want to hear.
Sure.
It's things that maybe I haven't heard in albums. Like the instrumental stuff comes from the desire, because I want to listen to metal albums without vocals. Sometimes vocals will kill an album for me.
Yeah.
I love the music, but the vocals they just don't do it, and they ruin the whole thing. So I was like, why isn't there enough, just instrumental metal that I can drive to and, exercise to, or something that just like almost like a background, kind of like, music in a movie or something, just to fill my day up.
Yeah.
And that's where the instrumental stuff came in. But, everybody's like, come on, get your vocals in there again. Everybody with the black metal.
I mean, there's time for both. I mean, it's funny because I think back, and I very early became aware of Godspeed You Black Emperor. And have you heard them?
Mm-mm.
No? Okay, well, but it was very cinematic, very operatic, very
theatrical, and
it's world building. Like, you kind of, you almost like fill in the vocals yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Not that you are, but
right.
It almost,
it's painting a picture for you. I mean,
you almost can be a part of it more than you can if someone's singing. Like, if someone's singing, I kind of feel like you're on the sidelines looking at it and listening to it. When there's not those vocals, you're almost absorbed into it more.
Right. Well, also vocals for me, when I listen to music, whether if there's vocals or not, I listen to the music first.
Sure.
I'm hearing the music. I'm hearing the guitars, the
Right.
drums, whatever it is. I hear the vocals, but I hear it as a melody.
Yeah.
And most people, when they listen to music, they're listening to the lyrics.
The words and the lyrics.
They're trying to. I can't do that. The first thing for me is the actual sound of it.
Right.
You know, I like to hear the melodies and what they've come up with, and then I go back a year later and look up lyrics and get into it that way. But I mean, music is the first part for me, man. And that's my favorite part of recording. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's why I do so much of it.
So Violent Nature is the first one. Throne of Ice, the first single off of it.
Right.
To just give me a little bit of an insight into what content it is that you're consuming that's kind of putting you in that mindset.
Well, I just, horror movies, watching horror movies. I was watching The Witch.
God, I fucking love that movie.
I love that movie. I'm just getting into
that's a perfect horror movie, I think.
Yeah, it is so good.
Yeah.
It is so good. And there's a lot of Instagram accounts that I found of like photographers in Norway. And, they'll take these amazing pictures in the mountains. And then their captions are, stories from folklore and legends and stuff. And that shit fires me up.
Just gets you going.
And Throne of Ice is kind of was just an idea I had of my own kind of story.
Sure.
About like a demon that was a king and was exiled, and he was, forced to sit on this throne and freeze through eternal winters. And then eventually he'll come back. And then I was looking into Native American legends, and I can't remember what tribe it was, but they had these things called Chinus, which are these ice spirit demons. And I kind of threw that in there too. So there's
you need to start writing books, man.
I've written a couple ideas for, like, I had that album Omega, which was all instrumental,
right?
And it was all based off of Frank Frazetta's paintings.
Sure.
I kind of put those all together and wrote a story and sent it to his granddaughter, and she loved it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I'm friends with her. So me and Mike know her.
That's bad.
Know some of the Frazetta family.
I follow a lot of those forums on Facebook. I love that art. I mean, it's badass. Very, very cool.
He's very inspired. That's one of my biggest inspirations too.
So albums 2 and 3 in the Blade of Surtr release catalog schedule that's coming out. What's the second one?
So the second one is Return of the Old Gods.
Okay.
And that is more of a pagan. It really deals with, the Norse mythology. And,
so aside from the subject matter being different, does that impact the sound?
Yes.
And how would you say sonically it's different from the first one?
Whereas the first one is more of like a primitive black metal.
Sure.
It's very straightforward and it's very aggressive. Return of the Old Gods is more melodic. I mean, you'll hear a lot of Amon Amarth sound in it. I mean, there's still black metal vocals, but I'm also doing clean vocals and singing more of like a traditional Norse style of singing, like Wardruna. So it's like a mix between Wardruna and Amon Amarth and Dark Throne.
Okay.
It's like this culmination
what
stuff.
Did I hear? I heard Amon. What did I hear? Amon Amarth. It was Bran Daler, the drummer from Mastodon. Mm-hmm. He referred to Amon Amarth as a type of metal, and I can't remember what it was, but it was a great phrase. It was like not conquering metal, but there's some you always feel like you're going into battle whenever you listen to that type of music. It's like
you're going raiding and shit.
Yeah. So that's cool.
I love Amon Amarth, so that really kicked into play, And
Did you go to that Slayer concert where they opened? It was them and Cannibal Corpse. And,
yes.
Yeah,
I was there.
Lamb of God. Yeah, they were great.
Yeah,
I really enjoyed that.
I wasn't there for Slayer. I drank a little too much.
So I missed Cannibal Corpse because Cannibal Corpse I think went on at like 4 in the afternoon.
We were out there tailgating and we're just going in heavy, and then by the time Slayer got up, we were done. We were like, "Oh, we're out."
Yeah,
but this, as far as Return of the Old Gods, I say a lot that it's like a Norse package because the actual content of the album is a metaphor. So I'm talking about Norse mythology as a metaphor for the destruction of modern civilization and having nature come back. So the whole theme of that whole album is nature returning to her natural form. And that's a big thing
for you. I mean, you talk a lot about that on social media. Yep. I mean, that's a big part of your life is your kind of connection with nature.
It's probably the most important thing to me, man.
Which we'll get to in a minute. Your exodus and the summer 2021 that's coming up. But so then album number 3 for Blade of Surtr.
That one, though, I'm not too sure about the title yet, but the working title is Dark Altar, and it is much more atmospheric.
Okay.
So a lot of long songs, very slow. I mean, there's blast beats, but the way it's presented is very slow and atmospheric, and
Or textures
layers,
and
just layers of guitars and violins, and it's really I don't know, it's evil sounding, but at the same time, I try to get it to have a more beautiful sound to it.
right.
So it's also nature inspired. I mean, they're all three connected with nature
Right.
in some way, shape, or form. But the third one is just more atmospheric.
And are you like tweaking these and working on these daily, or?
Yeah, I mean, I was,
Because you mix them all at
all I
your
was
place,
doing,
right?
yeah, all I was doing was just recording.
Yeah.
So I recorded all of the music, and then I started writing lyrics. So I'm just writing lyrics for the last album now while I'm tracking for the first.
Okay.
So it's just, continuously. I mean, if I'm sitting there and I'm watching TV, I start to get antsy.
Right.
And I
Right.
get up and pick up my guitar, and then next thing I know, it's 4 hours later, and I'm sitting there like,
That's so
writing
badass
songs.
because it's easy to get bored with stuff. It's easy to feel like you've played every riff. It's easy to feel like you've written every lyric, or but to constantly be stoked on something new, some new sound. And what was it I was talking? Oh, it's a line. God, it's horrible to reference for, especially for you. But it was A Star Is Born. And it's like there's 12 octaves, and it's all just how you play them.
Yep.
Each person's interpretation of those.
Just different,
same 12 notes or whatever the case.
Yeah, different time signatures, how you're throwing it. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, there's only so much you can really do nowadays because we're so oversaturated with music.
Right.
But I somehow I find a way, man. I think it's just the inspiration that I get from things.
Well, I mean, definitely the subject matter gives you an access point that can be different from other people's access points, and so sonically, I have to imagine that comes through.
Yeah.
So then, now I know you have more acts than just the two, or more projects than just the two, but probably your two main ones you'd agree is Achilles and Blade of Surtr.
Yeah. For right now, yeah.
Now, if I recall, and remind me if I'm wrong, last time you were on, you were writing something for a different project that you hadn't even thought of a name.
Jaguar Ritual.
Jaguar Ritual, that's right.
That is something that I'm keeping on the back burner until I get out into Colorado.
So that's going to be kind of your Colorado.
Yeah, I think that's going to be really that's going to end up being my main focus.
Okay.
As far as like where I'm going to go with my music.
Sure.
Because I still want to make money and make something of it, and Jaguar Ritual is going to be something that's more accessible to people. But still, it's going to be heavy, but it's going to be catchy, a lot more catchy and singing and rock.
Well, so this brings me to Achilles, and the interesting thing about that is kind of your first incarnation was I don't know if you call it hip hop or what you would call it, but that's where the Achilles name came from, right?
Yeah.
What was it called? I felt like there was a little tweak on it.
It was Achilles the Conqueror.
Achilles the Conqueror, right? Okay, thank you. And then when you went into Achilles, that became more of a straightforward type of band. And I remember when I first listened to what's the one where you're in the blue suit? That's my favorite album cover.
Marauder.
Yeah, Marauder. I fucking love that album cover.
Yeah, that's Mike, man. He knows how to take a picture.
Is Mike going to be doing any of the packaging or the covers stuff for the?
He did the picture for Violent Nature. We actually took 2 years ago when I did the EP. Okay, and we never really used that image, and it was just so good. I was like, this is a cover for a black metal album. I'm going to use it.
Well, I mean, you're such a pastiche of cool shit. Between just your look, the tats, the kind of aesthetic of the bands that you're in, and then you've got this cool kind of affinity for suits that there's just a lot of kind of cool shit going on that's unique with you. So I remember when I listened to Marauder, the very first thing that hit me was kind of a desert rock, Caius, Queens of the Stone Age, that sort of deal. And I'm trying to think. In your impression, what is that signature sound? I mean, it's almost like a sped up doom or a sped up.
It's I don't even know. When I first started doing Marauder, I was listening to so much AC/DC, and so much Alice in Chains and Soundgarden and Queens of the Stone Age and stuff. So it was kind of just melding all that shit
You
together.
put me on that newer Alice in Chains record, and I had always steered clear of them with their new singer.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, the first I was aware of him, but anytime a band gets a new singer, like a band can get a new guitarist, they can get a new bass player, they can get a new drummer,
especially Lane Staley. It's like, how do you feel? Those
yeah,
shoes?
I mean, it's just like that's not the same. It's probably shitty and it's probably wrongheaded, but this. As much as they're not playing an instrument, they're the voice of the band.
Right.
And when that changes, it's just really a different thing. And so when they got the new guy, I just fell off. But I don't know if it's Rainier Fog or the newer
Rainier
one.
Fog, yeah.
But I love fucking badass album.
That's one of my favorite albums of all time, man.
And my introduction to him was Giraffe Tongue Orchestra, which was him, Brent Hines from Mastodon, Ben from Dillinger Escape Plan, and that album I did not care for at all. And so that kind of put me off on that guy. But then it was after speaking with you, I went back and listened to that album and was like, holy shit, dude.
Yeah. I didn't like it. When I first heard it, I didn't really care for it. I was like, it's okay. And then
it's probably, and sorry to say this, my favorite Alice in Chains record.
Honestly, I'm not mad about that. I mean, to me, it's a masterpiece, man. I don't skip one song on it. I don't know how they fucking did it. I think that album
Jerry Cantrell.
I mean, he's the driving force. Him and Sean Kinney. I mean, those guys, they've just been doing it for so long and they're locked in with each other and their ideas are just fucking so good, man. I don't know how they I get so mad when I listen to it. I'm like, why didn't I come up with that riff? Why didn't I come up with those vocal harmonies? Like, they're so fucking good, man.
But it's kind of heartening, too, to know that these guys are how many years are they into playing guitar? 40 years? 50? I mean, they got to be pushing 60.
That's it, man.
He's mid-late 50s. So to be that long in the game and still be coming up, that's inspiring to me to know that, okay, I don't need to call it a day after 10 years or 20 years or whatever the case may be.
It definitely they're super inspiring, man. And that album did inspire the next Achilles album as well. I mean,
one of the next two that are coming up. Yeah. So let's talk about those. Do you have names for those yet?
Yeah. So I'm gonna alternate between the albums that I release. So I'll do a Blade album. I'll do an Achilles. I'll do a Blade. I'll do an Achilles. And so the first Achilles album I got coming out is the sequel to Marauder. So it's Marauder 2.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it kind of takes off, where the story left off from the first one. The guy's coming back to life now, and he's in the 80s. Because the first Marauder took place in 79.
It's got a very... I think of all the 70s car movies, and I think we've talked about that before.
Vanishing Point.
And then, obviously Tarantino kind of copied that and his movie with Kurt Russell.
Yep.
And what was it? Drive even is kind of a take off on that type of thing. But I love it, kind of that 70s hard car.
Yeah.
Fucking
it's just
Bullet.
It's like that grindhouse. Yeah, exactly. Bullet. Yeah, it's a very grindhousey idea, man. I mean, it's a character.
I love it though. I love it. I mean, and then again, that's all your stuff is so cinematic and I think you mentioned your love of movies kind of is almost parallel your love of music.
It's definitely right there. I mean, it's just as important as music is for me.
That's bad. Well, I'm super stoked on that. And then what about the second one?
The second one is an acoustic album.
Oh, really?
So there's drums and bass and everything, but it's all kind of like unplugged and it's very it's different, man. I don't think I've really heard anything like it before. I mean, it's a lot of metal riffs on the acoustic guitar, and I'm tuned down on this one. I'm in drop C, and it just sounds, I don't know, it sounds different. It's different than anything I've done. I've never done acoustic shit before.
So I'm trying to, I'm going through my mind thinking of great acoustic albums, acoustic bands. I mean, I think of Neil Young as always a king of great acoustic albums.
For sure.
Obviously not written on acoustic, but such a good representation of acoustic music is the Unplugged with Nirvana.
Yeah. The Unplugged with Alice in Chains is very much. I mean, that's the sound of it.
Yeah,
like that's what it sounds like. The drums and the bass and the guitars have that.
There's a guitar sound for them, acoustically speaking, and I don't know why Takamine guitars are what goes into my head, but there's this kind of resonance, this kind of.
It's kind of jangly too.
Jangly, resonant.
You can hear the strings kind of vibrating on the fretboard.
Yeah, late 80s, early 90s acoustic music had a very distinct way about it.
That's definitely what I was going for with this. But I mean, the riff wise, I'm doing all these weird harmonies and It's all catchy though. Like everything about it, it's very southern. It's like Marauder acoustic.
Yeah.
In some way.
Do you have a name for it?
Yeah, that's called Natural Law.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's it's more that delves more deep into like Native American stuff and
right.
You know, about the true freedom of America and you know how it was before.
So that's a good kind of transition point. So I know since I've known you what a hunger, an appetite, a yearning you've had to get out of strip mall fucking heaven of Tampa. And I know at least once now since the last time we met, you went on a trip and it seemed to really kind of fill your quiver with some new kind of inspiration. I mean, I candidly, even sitting with you here now, you're a different person from the person that sat down in front of me before.
Definitely.
I felt like you, and I don't mean this with any, condescension or consternation, but I almost felt kind of burnt out, or you needed to fill your lungs up.
It definitely brought my spirit back a little bit, man.
So where did you go?
I went to Colorado.
Okay, whereabouts?
We were in Boulder, Denver, Colorado Springs, Manitou Springs, Fairplay. Kind of went all over the place, man. Did a lot of driving, a lot of hiking, and just we spent majority of the time in nature. And what's great out there is it's like 3 different worlds.
Right.
Because in one part of it, you look like you're in the mountains in Europe. And then 30 minutes later, you're in the desert. And then 30 minutes later, you're in a city.
Right.
So we were able to go hike all day.
Yeah.
And be out in the mountains and then come back and go to a brewery.
Right.
And, something else that's cool that I meant to tell you about was they got black metal breweries in Denver.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, so you walk in and the walls are black. They're playing nothing but black metal. All their stouts and everything are named after. It's fucking killer. Man.
You're like, I'm just going to fucking set up here and just hang out here forever.
I was like, you guys don't have to twist my arm to make me move here, man.
Yeah.
And now they're reintroducing wolves into the wildlife in Colorado. So I'm like, yeah, you guys got me.
That's awesome. So, is that where you're going? Like,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure, man.
And have you lined up work out there? Have you lined up a place to stay?
I think we're trying to plan to go back around April and, get a definitive spot. Yeah. I mean, it'll probably be near the Denver area, but I just don't want to be in the city.
Right.
So on the outskirts, maybe like 30-minute drive or something from Denver and just, just get a nice little spot out there. And
are you going with somebody?
Yeah, I'm actually going with the guys from Beer Wolf.
Okay.
And so it's Jason and Ashwin, possibly Matt, and Jason's girlfriend Melissa. So we're all gonna go out there, and then. Now,
how do you know those guys? Just from playing music locally?
Well, I was working at Dean Guitars.
Okay. For
like 5 years, and they came in pretty much right after I started, so we kind of all got to know each other, knew we were into the same music, The Sword and Queens of the Stone Age and all that shit. So it was just natural.
Well, and you guys just played a show here in December, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It's like the first or second week of December, I thought.
I think it was November.
Was it November?
I think it was November.
And it was you and Beowulf.
Yeah.
How was that?
It was great, man.
How was the crowd? So here's the question I want to ask you, because I haven't been to a live show since Gasparilla Music Festival 2020, which was almost a year ago.
It's been a minute.
Playing loud music, heavy music, rock music, where you don't have people right up on the stage, right up on each other. Mm-hmm. How was that for you? Did that fuck with you, or didn't even mind it? It was
fine, man. Yeah. Because we did it at Crowbar, and Tom's real, he's smart about it, and he's safe with it. So, everybody had to have a mask on unless you're seated at the tables, and the tables are spread out. And we didn't have too many people come in there, maybe like 30, 40 people. And it was just mostly friends and family. So it was great. You
had your pimp limp on, man. You were fucking, I could tell you were leaning into it. You were feeling it.
Well, see, I got in there and I was, when I was doing the hip hop shit, I would just get so fucked up before I performed. Mm-hmm. And I had no problem. Every once in a while I'd mess up a couple words.
Yeah.
But with this, I was like, I'm playing guitar and singing at the same time. I need to focus.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm going to be a little bit more focused. And of course, that didn't happen. I started taking shots and drinking. But I mean, it really did help me
loosen up.
I got loose. The first song I was kind of hesitant. I'm trying to listen, catch the sound, see how it's sounding. But once we got into the second song, I was
Locked
just
in.
like, yeah, that's it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Now, I know I believe it's both your mom and your dad. I know you're really close with your family here. I mean, I remember early on trying to get you in. A big thing was your parent. Is it both your parents?
Yeah.
And they're a little bit older.
Yeah. My dad's in his 70s, early 70s. So I try to, be safe with them.
Have you ever lived away from them before? I don't mean in the same house, but in a different state.
Not out of state, no.
So have you thought about that at all? How that might?
Yeah, we've talked a lot about it. They don't want me to go, but at the same time, they want me to.
Yeah,
they know that I'm not happy here.
Yeah,
and they're not trying to hold me back, and they're happy that I'm leaving, but they're also unhappy about it. But I mean, it's everybody understands. I don't get any grief about it.
Do I remember you have a brother or?
I have a stepbrother. Yeah,
okay.
He's an attorney as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I think we talked about that. Is he here local?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's trippy, because I'll be interested to see what feelings come out. Because
it's gonna be a long, difficult road, but I mean it's something that has to happen.
But you're a nonstop flight away if you need to.
Yeah, I mean I can always come back. There's no problem.
Right.
It's nothing I'm really worried about, I'm just.
So you mentioned once you're there, Jaguar Ritual might be your deal. Is that going to be another solo project, or is that going to be?
That will be something that I try to get some guys together.
Now, is there any overlap with Beerwolf where maybe you could borrow? Or
I mean, that would be completely up to them.
Sure.
You
gotta get me one of them in here before you.
Yeah,
guys all move
I will,
out.
man. They would love to come in. They're fucking excellent as well, man. A great.
I
band.
watched some of that show live, and it was badass. I was super digging it.
They're kick ass, man. They got like the sword vibe and the Caius thing, and just groovy. It's just fucking groovy stoner doom. They're all great guys too, man. They're funny as hell. They're great to be around. So
how is the Jaguar Ritual sound in your perception going to be different from the Achilles stuff?
I mean, I don't know if it will have too much of a big difference. It's kind of, that's the territory where it's going.
Right.
Is that style. It'll be that desert kind of rock style for sure, because that's what I'm into. But I think I will get more into a rock and roll mentality, and kind of not so heavy.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Something just more groovy and I don't know, just something that anybody can listen to. If they like rock, they're gonna fucking like it.
Right.
That's the goal. You know?
Right. So since you were here last, we had an election.
Mm-hmm.
We had an inauguration.
Mm-hmm.
Has your sphincter unpuckered a little bit? Has your ulcers?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not one for politics to begin with. I kind of
but I think you were right-headed, and you are a just person.
Yeah,
and I think you always seem to be on point whenever you do kind of tour through that world.
Yeah, I'll weigh in every now and then. I definitely believe in an actual justice and the system being a little bit more straight. But yeah, I mean, when
I'm liking that I'm not paying attention to politics much anymore.
Yeah.
I'm kind of, it's like people are asking me questions. It's like,
it was like a fucking circus, like a reality show, man.
Yeah, it's like I don't have someone tweeting me every second. I'm not watching news every night to see if.
It's enough, man. I mean, that's the thing. I can't get into it, man. Too much sports and politics and religion for me is just, it's not my thing, man.
Yeah.
I'd rather just drink in the mountains and not listen to everybody's bullshit, man.
All right. I mean, hell yeah. Well, I'm super stoked, and I'm excited to see what comes about it, because I feel like it's like, in the video games when someone has a full power bar.
Mm-hmm.
I can't wait to see what, a year into Colorado is going to look like for you. Like, what kind of music's going to come out of that.
I'm so excited. All I see is opportunity with it, man. I mean, it's like I said, I've been feeling stagnant. I've been here for over 30 years. And I think I'm a believer in that naturally we're nomadic people. We're supposed to be wanderers. I think that if you stick in one place for too long, your spirit will start to die. So getting up and moving and going into uncharted territories, and you grow from that. Your mind expands, and the whole idea is to gain knowledge and wisdom, for me at least.
Right.
And different cultures and living in different areas and environments, and what I'm going to have to deal with, because everybody's like, oh, you're going to have to fucking shovel snow and this. I'm like, oh, that's fine. I'd rather shovel snow than get in my car at 100 degrees and not be able to breathe. I can't stand it. I hate the heat.
Right.
I'm like, that's fine. I'll roll around in the snow. So,
well, I'm excited. I've appreciated getting to know you. I think you're a good dude. I think you come from, everything you do with heart. You don't mail it in. You don't half-ass it. And you don't put it out if you don't like it, and so I'm super stoked to see what's going to happen with you out there. Hopefully, you'll come back when you come back to visit your parents. Maybe you'll pop in.
Oh, for sure. Man.
I can't wait to hear your stuff that's coming out. We're gonna play, if we can figure out how to do it in this episode, Throne of Ice off of Violent Nature, so people can get a taste. I speak the gospel, Blade of Surtr, to everybody who will listen. It's one of, as much as I love local music, I can tell you your stuff is probably what I'm listening to the most, because it's, like you say, especially the instrumental stuff, man. Mm-hmm. It's just great to vibe off of. So love what you do. I appreciate you coming in. I'm stoked to hear about your adventures in Colorado and can't wait to see what comes of it.
Thanks, man. It's a pleasure being in here.
Thank you, Andrew. All right. Take care.
Have a good one.